Oh yeah, you know what time it is. Time for a new build, and this one's going to be sick. So last night I was on one of those Facebook Messenger Yamaha pages, whatever, and this guy was telling me about his Yamaha 50F and how he put about almost 2 grand on it, and it only goes 50 miles per hour. So in this series, we are going to be making something that blows that thing out of the water. That actually, you know what? In this series, we're going to be making the fastest Yamaha 50F, and this is going to be nasty. All right, guys, just a little quick comparison for those that don't know. This is a 50F, and this is a Yamaha Bug Eye. You can see that they're very similar, but they are very different at the same time. Some similarities are the circle headlights. They both got circle headlights. This one's missing because it's water cooled. But anyway, the fenders are different. The whole front end, actually the whole body is different. The gas tank location is different on the 50Fs. It's located on the floor. The Bug Eye ones are up top. The fenders are different. The wheels are different. The rotors are different. But the main difference between both of these bikes is that this one right here is 4-stroke fuel injected, while this one is just 2-stroke. Listen, don't get me wrong, these bikes, those 4 strokes, they are super reliable. They are, you just get on it and go. You don't have to worry about anything. Don't really have to worry about warming it up too much. You just get on the thing and that thing will take you anywhere you want to go. I hardly have any issues. Actually, I've never had any issues with mine personally. But with that being said, this right here is a Yamaha 50F Zuma. It's very nice, got a very nice color on it, like this dark green, forest green. But as you can see, it is in complete pieces. The seat's over there. I think I have almost all the plastics for it. I got it from this kid. He said that he lost spark from it, and I was going to fix it. But when I got to this side over here, this was all just in here. The flywheel was just on there, no bolt in it. The stator was just hanging in there, no bolts. I have no bolts for any of this stuff. So you know what? We're gonna do this the right way, and we're going to build this scooter, and we are going to make the fastest Yamaha Zuma F ever. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna take all these parts and get them all organized and put them away safely, and then we'll get back to the bike. And then we're gonna go through our options, and then we're gonna decide together what to do, all right? This is the 50F. All the parts are off of it. This thing is completely toast. There's a bunch of cut wires. There's a bunch of missing bolts and broken plastics. So when I got the bike, I tried to get it to crank and stuff, and then I was like, what is going on? This thing is not cranking. Then I got it to crank, and then I got fuel, and then I got no spark. Then I looked down at the table and I noticed a big, like not a big, but it had some oil. So I'm like, uh-oh. Take off all the covers, missing a whole bunch of bolts, and then I get to the flywheel, and the flywheel was just sitting in there like this. The stator was behind it, and I literally just took it off. There was no bolts on any of it. Crazy, absolutely crazy. All right, then I get to thinking, I'm like, all right, maybe I can eliminate all that stuff that was in there. I mean, I could just easily just get this thing running like stock, but this thing would never be the fastest 50F ever with this stock motor or just with a stock ignition. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I can just make something work where I can make my own custom ignition and make it run like that. Get rid of the fuel injector and get rid of the ECU and just run a carburetor. And I was like, all right, cool, that might work. But to be honest, I don't think that's gonna make this thing the fastest 50F. So what we are going to be doing is throwing away this whole motor, slapping a 2-stroke on it, and making this thing the fastest 50F ever. Yes, so you guys heard it. We are going to be taking the 4-stroke out. We are going to be replacing it with a 2-stroke, and in my personal opinion, that is the easiest and fastest way to make the fastest 50F ever. So let's get to it. I got my measuring tape. Let's take some measurements. Let's see if the motor would even fit in there. Let's start moving some of this junk out of the way that we won't be using. That's fine. this measuring tape. And we are roughly at 4 3/4 of an inch. All right guys, so this right here is a motor from 02 to 2011 Yamaha Zuma 50. So this is a 2-stroke motor. It is one of the best motors in my opinion ever made, and or just Minarellis in general. But all right, so we measured the last one, and this one is exactly the same at 4 3/4. So that's very good news. We might be able to just take that mount and put it on this, or I'm actually going to try to measure the whole entire mount so we don't even have to take that one off. Maybe we're at 11.5. It's very hard to measure it with the motor in there, so dangerously close. If not, that thing is exactly the same as the 2-stroke one. So let's pull this motor off and see if we can swap this thing in there. Let's just zip this off. All right, now we're gonna try to lift the frame up and then knock these bolts out. There we go. Now we definitely got some harnesses to unplug. Throttle cable officially off. All right, so I think this thing is ready to come off. I think everything is disconnected. This final double check. But we are ready to take this thing off. And it should come right up. Whoa, sorry guys. So the last thing to take off is going to be your shock. All right, just like that. The last thing, I hope it's the last thing to take off, is this nut for your rear brakes, because that's connected to the rest of your bike. Take all this out. Let's put this all back together so you can not lose any of it. Slide this thing out of the way. So now we can be able to slide that motor out of the way. There we go. And just like that, guys, the motor is out. And we're going to try to fit the other motor in real quick. Hopefully everything lines up, but this motor is out, and good riddance. Here, I'm gonna see if this wheel fits fits the 2-stroke motor. That'd be cool if it does, because then I won't have to change the front wheel. It'll all match. Beep, beep. All right guys, so we're gonna slide this thing in here. Hopefully it all lines up all nice. Let's see. It's so close. This one is in, and this one's kind of on an angle. I'm gonna try one more time. All right guys, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like my bracket is bent. So I'm going to, yeah, that thing's definitely bent. So I'm gonna try to take this one off and see if I can unbend it and see if it'll slide in. Worst case, I'll take the one off the 4-stroke and make that work. Let's see why this isn't working. Alright, so it looks like this one is slightly longer. I'm going to pull the one off the 4-stroke and see if we can get that one to work. Alright guys, so the top one right here is the 50F one, and this one is the 2-stroke one, and they are off maybe by 1/2 of an inch. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little more than 1/2 of an inch. On to this. So it just looks like we have to cut a little, or I can just try to take the whole tube out of the other one and stick it in there. We'll probably try to do that. That way I can keep the motor aligned. All right guys, little change of plan. That wasn't gonna work the way I envisioned it because these bars are just completely different. So I made some measurements, I marked, and I'm going to chop the ends off and then slide the stock mount right over it. All right guys, so now that it's all cut, we're gonna take the new one. Literally, look at that. Beautiful. Just slide this thing through. Beautiful, beautiful. Gotta put a little washer on both sides, which should be good. 4-stroke mount on the 2-stroke motor. Now, we'll lift it up and put it into place. Oh, sorry guys. I put it on backwards. All right, got the motor mount flipped around. All right guys, so we're actually gonna mount the bracket first and then we'll mount the motor on. Because I just think it'll be easier like that. Okay. It's so close. Here's the first problem I encountered. You see that right there? That's just hitting, so it's ever so slightly off, maybe by like an eighth. So maybe I'll just hit that with a hammer, or I might just shave this down a little just to clear it. All right, just a little bit. I never noticed. Bolt. Oh, would you look at that? Like a glove. Oh, look at that. I don't even need the one because the thing sucked it right up. Guys, it's 2-stroked. Look at this. Huh? Yes. This thing was a lot easier than expected. Everything lines up. I don't need any washers or anything. Perfectly cut. All right, so my next step is to try to take this wheel off and make it fit on the 2-stroke motor, but I have a feeling it's not going to. I think this is a lot wider than the 50Fs are, but won't know until you try. So let's take this apart. All right, let's take this exhaust off. There's 2 bolts on the bottom. They're both 12s. I cracked everything loose already. And then there's 2 bolts right there, 1 and 2. And then there's 2 10s right here. 2 and should come straight down. There we go. All right, I just gotta remove that big nut and then yeah, I don't know. This is a lot smaller than the Zuma one, than the 2-stroke one, for whatever reason. Here's a silver one I had laying around. Just gonna throw this one on, just temporarily. Yeah, that looks awesome. Look at this thing. 2-stroked. On the road to be the fastest Yamaha Zuma 50F ever. Perfectly centered. This is going to be awesome. There it is, guys. You guys see it. The thing is 2-stroke. This is definitely going to be the fastest 50F ever. I can't wait. I'm kind of bummed we couldn't use that rear wheel though. It definitely would have looked sick on there. So that means we got to change the front one, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens with that. That right there was probably the hardest part, getting this motor mounted. But next is the gas tank, which is probably going to be the hardest part, or it's going to be another difficult or tricky part, but it shouldn't be too terrible, to be honest. Everything's moving along real smoothly, no issues. The wiring is no issue, and yeah, man, this thing should be done in no time. So you guys know what to do, man. Keep watching. Peace.